We addicted to fast cars, bad bras, late nights, last calls, alcohol, bad bitches scrolling through the phone log. Hit 'em up, all my pick 'em up. We bout to have a time tonight. Sure you keep that burner tuck, cause niggas like to creep low. Say motherfuck the PO and the judge. But if they come with us, just know it's love. I'm saying just because. Yeah. Cause we been coming from welfare, medical, healthcare, living in the hood is hell here, hell yeah. I'm saying just because. Love. I watched my mama and my daddy struggle with the bottle. I watched my cousins and my brother banged out full throttle. Driver's seat, we bout that action, we ain't sitting idle. And even when they melanated, still a rival. I ain't about killing, but I'm about survival. And we be praying to the Lord, but still ain't read the Bible. And put that pedal to the floor with a savage title. Hope we don't crash out. Shawty out, seeking attention, she got that out.
What is freezing? Does he know you using that?
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Unapologetic with Mandrell and Shu Shu. This is my hard-headed little sister, Shu Shu.
Hard-headed.
And I'm your fabulous host, the one you come to see every week.
Mm-hmm.
I am. I'm an icon. I'm the one they come out and see each week.
Okay. All right, no, Richard.
I'm Mandrell.
I am the originator.
You can stop it.
Thank you.
I am.
Thank you.
You know, it is good for you to have me donate my time, because usually I charge people for it.
Okay.
Anyway, go ahead. This is your subject. We're talking about free will this week. Is it a thing or is it not? Some people say yes, others say no. And by the way, the Cash App and the PayPal is scrolling at the bottom of the screen. Feel free to donate at your leisure. Any donations you give us would be very much so appreciated. Okay.
Donations.
Yeah.
Gifts. Donations.
More gifts.
Right.
More gifts.
Right.
More gifts.
Right.
Yeah. The donation part got me though. He's throwing the papers around. Donate.
Yeah, I hope one of y'all that celebrated 4th of July. We want to say he bet not catch none of y'all.
I celebrated the 4th of July.
See, girl, I can't.
What? No, I don't see the humor in that. Anyway,
Oh my
now, anyway, 4th of July, that's another subject entirely. But when it comes to free will, some people say, and the people who say no, there's no free will, I do understand their point.
Mm-hmm.
I read up a little bit about it, and I watched a video on it, and it got into particle mechanics, physics, particle physics. It got into quantum jumping. You know what I'm saying? So it got into that. So if you're not, well versed in science, good luck understanding that.
No, I have multiple. I have clips from multiple videos that were talking about this.
Well, I want to know about you, from you. Do you think free will is a thing? Do we really have it?
I do.
You do?
Yeah.
I don't think so. I don't think I should be held accountable for my actions.
Just because you don't want to be, that's a difference.
I'm kidding. I want to do what I want to do, regardless.
Right. Hence the title. We typically talk about accountability so much on these panels and in this space, talking about holding men and women accountable for their actions. And I came across a couple of different videos talking about free will, and apparently this is a controversial topic in the scientific community. You have one sector of the scientific community that says free will doesn't exist. And, honestly, they do make a very strong point. But then you have this other sector that says free will does exist.
Mostly it's physicists.
Right.
And
say
that it doesn't, it's mostly physicists.
Right. And to make it clear, what free will is simply the freedom of choice, of choosing and making decisions. And you have a sector of the scientific community that says that we don't make conscious decisions because there are other factors at play that play into our behavior and our actions and the things that we do. And so we're going to I got a couple of different videos that make that where they make their points. And I mean, at the end of this, we'd love to hear what you guys think about it. Does free will exist? And so with that being said, the first video that I have is discussing two scientists discussing why free will does not exist or why they believe that it doesn't exist. And with that being said, admin, let's cue up the first video. Oh yeah, fair use, by the way. Fair use, YouTube, fair use. Thank you. That's right.
The polite thing that I've sort of said for decades is that, well, if there's free will, it's in all the boring places, and those places are getting more and more cramped. If you want to insist that today you decided to floss your teeth starting on your upper teeth rather than your lower teeth, rather than the other way around, that was an act of free will, whatever, I'll grant that one to you. That's where the free will is. In reality, I don't think there's any free will at all. If you look at the things that come into account as to whether or not someone is going to do the right thing in the next 2 seconds amid a temptation to do otherwise, and the variables in there reflect everything from whether they are having gas pains that day because of something unpleasant they ate that morning, that makes us more selfish, more impulsive, etc., to what epigenetic effects occurred to them than when they were a first trimester fetus. When you look at the number of things we recognize now that are biological, organic, where 500 years ago or 5 years ago, we would have had a harsh moral judgment about it, and instead we now know, oh, that's a biological phenomenon. What we're going to get to the point is recognizing, yeah, we're biological organisms. This notion of free will, for want of a less provocative word, is nothing but a myth.
Our brains are complicated, and they got this big, or as big as they are, organically through evolution, with layer being added upon layer. So our ability to choose is often confused. Our ability to make choices is often affected by the environment, by our experiences, and by biochemistry, the shape of our brain.
Well, so basically they're saying that, and that is for all the people who watched Bill Nye the Science Guy as children, that is the Bill Nye. He was breaking down that second part of it. But anyway,
we're aware of who Bill Nye is, and if you don't, shame on you. Anyway,
so they're basically saying when we make choices, those choices are more so dependent upon like what the other factors other than just straight reasoning and logic. Like for instance, if you're hungry, in particularly, a lot of times people are irritable, they're less patient when they're hungry, or if you have a hormonal imbalance, a lot of times, like specifically people who suffer from depression, you do have some people who like have a legit chemical imbalance going on inside of them. So it's deeper than just I'm not having a good day today or I'm going through a tough time right now. Like they legit have like something going on inside of them that is not in their control. And when they make choices, that plays a factor. If they're going through if they're having a bad day, a lot of times, like how many times you yourself out there watching it, and you, Mandrell, have made choices. You maybe said something insensitive or rude, but at the time, maybe you were in a bad headspace because you just got out of an argument or something. So they're basically saying when we make choices, or we do make choices, most of the time it's not from the portion of our brain that controls logic and reasoning. What are your thoughts on that?
There's something to it. When it comes to the brain, there's still so much that we don't know about it.
Right.
So it's to the point where you can't actually rule anything out. We're still discovering things about it, and we will be for a long time.
Right. Yeah.
But as far as do we not have free will? I mean, now the frontal cortex, that is where reason and logic is, and you can't operate that way. You can.
Mm-hmm.
But when that part of the brain is on, what's your excuse then? That's when the debate becomes complicated. There are certain biological and hormonal, body chemical events going on that we're unaware of.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm not a microbiologist.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not a physicist, so I don't think about this stuff every single day. So, yeah, I think that. What's your question?
I was just asking what you thought about it. And here's the thing, like when you were, because even you brought up the point of like when your frontal lobe is functioning, like it's on, it's active, you can function like from that portion of your brain. What's your excuse? Well, part of their argument is that the environment that you're in at the time also plays a role. Prime example, I can never remember his name, the young boy who shot the dude who punched his mother in the face.
Why would you remember his name? I don't think they released it for safety
reasons. No, they released his name, his background and stuff. He had been inside.
Here's the thing about that. Yeah, your environment doesn't dictate your reaction. You're responding to what's going on in the environment. You're responding to it. You know what I mean?
But the argument is you're not thinking about it, because there are some instances where you make split-second decisions where you ain't thinking from reason, like rationally. You just respond. You just react.
But you are responding with reason and logic. That is the most reasonable and logical solution to said problem that your brain can think of and can come up with at that time. Your split reaction, yeah. That is your brain observe and interprets and comes up with the most reasonable and logical response in order to preserve itself. Because your body is trying to protect itself from everything, including you.
But the thing is, it's not coming from a conscious place. That's the difference. It's just reactive, which is where the argument, what they're arguing, why we.
Is it conscious or is it not? You are awake and physically conscious of this. You did see what happened. You did hear and feel what happened. So how is it not conscious? I think what happened there is you didn't take a second to think about it further. The first thing in your mind, you just reacted.
Right.
That's what I think those kinds of situations.
Right, but that's the thing. The idea of free will, of us like actually thinking about something before we do it, thinking about a choice before you make it. But that's the thing. In instances like that, you don't think about your reaction before you do it. You just do it. That's the thing. That's not a decision you made where, like, rationally, where you just actually thought about what you were doing before you did it. You just responded. So that's why they're saying
but you're still conscious. By definition, you're still conscious. You're still conscious. You still observe what was happening.
You know what? I got a video for that. I got one of the videos I got for that too. But anyway, speaking of videos, we're going to get into the second one. So here is a physicist actually explaining why he believes that we do have free will. So admin, let's cue up video number 2, fair use.
Well, you asked one of the deepest philosophical questions of physics, the question of free will. First of all, there's something called Newtonian determinism. Newtonian determinism says that the universe is a clock, a gigantic clock that's wound up at the beginning of time, and it's been ticking ever since according to Newton's laws of motion. So, what you're going to eat 10 years from now, on January 1st, has already been fixed. It's already known using Newton's laws of motion. Einstein believed in that. Einstein was a determinist. And some people asked Einstein, well, does that mean that a murderer, a horrible mass murderer, isn't really guilty of his works because it was already preordained billions of years ago? And Einstein said, well, yeah, in some sense that's true. That even mass murderers were predetermined. But he said, they should still be placed in jail. Okay? Heisenberg then comes along and proposes the Heisenberg uncertainty principle and says, nonsense. There's uncertainty. You don't know where the electron is. It could be here, here, or many places simultaneously. And this, of course, Einstein hated because he said God doesn't play dice with the universe. Well, hey, get used to it. Einstein was wrong. God does play dice. Every time we look at an electron, it moves. There's uncertainty with regards to the position of the electron. So what does that mean for free will? It means in some sense we do have some kind of free will, in the sense that no one can determine your future events given your past history. There's always the wild card. There's always the possibility of uncertainty in whatever we do. So this means that free will, determining the future, hey, these are philosophical questions that seem to indicate that we have some kind of free will.
Yep. He's talking about quantum jumping.
Yeah.
Because by itself, an electron has no conductivity. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Electrons only have conductivity when there's massive groups of them.
Mm-hmm.
So when you look at an electron by itself, and
so we're not going to do that. Like, okay, so we go speak in layman's terms.
What? Why?
So, okay.
You didn't understand what I was saying?
Basically, just what he's saying is, there is uncertainty. There is unpredictability in life and in the world. So, initially what Einstein thought was they had this theory where, everything was already set already. Like everything is already.
Everything is a fixed point.
Yeah, everything is fixed already.
Well,
but
the thing is, the current theory is that not everything is fixed, but there are fixed points in time. Where, like, say if you went back in time, no matter what you did, that event was going to happen. Right. Period. Right. This is a fixed point. Somehow, some way, that event was going to happen. And if you change said event, it would cause a catastrophe. Hence the butterfly effect. There you go. Movie. Yeah. But the thing is, you don't know what this fixed point in time is. That's why you don't want to do anything. Like if you touch the wings of a butterfly and the butterfly dies, it might set off this chain reaction of events, right? Terrible events. Somewhere else. Yeah, somewhere else. That's the thing. You don't know what the fixed point in times are. Mm-hmm. So if you're going to go back in time and change anything, you know what I'm saying? You don't know what to change. You don't know what the effects are going to be. But back to free will. See, they're talking about this, the physicists, because all of this stuff is actually going on in your body. Right. Your body is computing and working these things out and interpreting things faster than we can think. Right. Right. So it gets to the point where biologically, if you're in this situation, biologically, you're going to respond this way, no matter what. Like you don't have a choice in how you're going to respond to. If you said to me, "Hey, Mandrell, I'm going to respond." Mm-hmm. No matter what, I'm going to respond in this manner towards you. Greeting me, right? Because I'm biologically predisposed to that. And Einstein's theory was that since the Big Bang, time set everything into motion to happen the way it is, so we don't actually have a choice. We're doing what we're supposed to do because time has already forced us to do that. And then, which means that to some people's interpretations, we're just drones. We can't help what we're doing because we were meant to do that anyway. Right. And that's the thing too, that he said, somebody asked the question to Einstein, well, if everything is already preordained or predestined, then that means that someone who, might commit a murder in the future, like a murderer, then should he still be held accountable for his actions? Like, yeah, you should still be punished for it. But it's not, but here's the thing, here's the dilemma. It wasn't his choice.
Right.
So how do you
Right.
punish a man? Now we're bringing the moral aspect. How do you punish a person for making a decision that
Yeah.
wasn't theirs to begin with?
Right. Exactly.
You know, is that
It-
person truly accountable for their actions?
Get these women out of here having babies by these Pookies and Ray Rays. That wasn't their choice. Okay. That was already predestined. It was preordained. Okay. You know what I mean?
And
the
it's
Pookies and Ray Rays
preordained.
that don't want to take care of their kids and walking on their families. It was already destined. It was already preordained. You see what I'm saying? So like you can't hold them accountable for that. What you mean?
Why not?
Because that wasn't their choice.
I guess it's preordained for me to leave them alone.
Right. Speaking of accountability, getting into this next video talks about free will and accountability. Adnan, let's go into the third video.
Like consciousness, free will is often misunderstood because we know it by reference, but it's difficult to know it by content, what we really mean by free will. A lot of people will immediately feel that free will is related to whether the universe is deterministic or probabilistic. And while physics has some ideas about that, which change every now and then, it's not part of our experience, and I don't think it makes a difference if the universe forces you randomly to do things or deterministically. The important thing seems to me that in free will, you are responsible for your actions. And responsibility is a social interface. For instance, if I am told that if I do X, I go to prison, and this changes my decision to whether or not to do X, I'm obviously responsible for my decision because it was an appeal to my responsibility in some sense. Or likewise, if I do a certain thing that it causes harm to other people and I don't want that harm to happen, it influences my decision. This is a discursive decision making that I would call it's a free will decision. Will is the representation that my nervous system at any level of its functioning has raised a motive to an intention. It has committed to a particular kind of goal. And it gets integrated into the story of myself, this protocol that I experience as myself in this world. And that was what I experience as will, as a will decision. And this decision is free in as much as this decision can be influenced by discourse.
The essential part of free will that people want to hold on to is the sense that therefore makes you responsible for your actions. So it's the idea of personal responsibility. And I think that's very important. And I don't think that all this mechanistic work on the brain in any way threatens that. You learn that responsibility is to be understood at the social level, the deal, the rules that we work out living together. So the metaphor I like to use is cars and traffic. We can study cars and all their physical relationships and know exactly how they work. It in no way prepares us to understand traffic when they all get together and start interacting. That's another level of organization and description of these elements interacting. So the same as with brains, that we can understand brains to the nth degree, and that's fine, and that's what we're doing. But it's not going to, in any way, interfere with the fact that taking responsibility in a social network is done at that level. So the way I sum it up is that brains are automatic, but people are free, because people are going to be are joining the social group, and in that group are laws to live by. And it's interesting. Every social network, whether it's artifactual, internet, or people, the accountability is essential or the whole thing just falls apart.
Accountability is essential or the whole thing falls apart.
Well, he's talking about order. Now we get into social science.
Right. And that's what he was saying, free will is essential on a social level, because you have to be held responsible for how you act and how you respond in society. You can't just
But
go
if I
around.
don't have any free will, how are you going to hold me accountable for that? It wasn't my choice. I didn't make the choice.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and that is the conundrum, so to speak, holding someone accountable for, decisions that they, I guess, technically didn't consciously make, so to speak.
Yeah. I'm responding to something Dr. Nakumbi says in the chat. Yes, Dr. Nakumbi, it is a fact. Brains are automatic, but people are free. It is. Dr. Nakumbi, stop thinking about breathing. I shouldn't have to say that because you're not thinking about breathing. You're just doing it.
Right.
You even do it when you're sleeping. You're unconscious.
Right.
Stop metabolizing your food. You can't even do that, no matter how much brain power or willpower you have.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Your body does that automatically, and your brain is the one sending the signals to the body to do so.
Yeah.
So the brain is automatic. You know, however, you make your own choices as to purchase a firearm, eat spaghetti, go for a run, watch a television show, talk to a person, you know. So you make your own conscious decisions when it comes to that. Yes, thank you, Dr. Nakumbi. This is a nice example. Thank you, Dr. Nakumbi. Shu will tell you, a lot of people make a big deal out of my military career, but I'm a nerd, dude. I've always been into science. I mean, I always have.
Real quick, shout out to the chat. Thank you, everyone, for rolling through. If this is your first time coming in, welcome. Please don't let this be your last time. Please be sure to hit the like button and the subscribe button. Everybody in
the chat too.
I am. Can I get through my speech first? See what I'm saying? This is rude. God, hello. Speaking of hitting the like button, I hope everybody watching has hit the like button. Shout out to everybody in the chat, Lady Navoa. Thank you, as always, for always coming through and showing love and support. We appreciate you so much. Dr. Nakumbi, thank you. We see you in the chat. We appreciate you for coming through and showing love as always as well. Mr. Bennett, how you doing tonight? Thank you so much for coming through. Hope you'll get up on the panel tonight. This is a very interesting discussion. Beautifully Animated Speaks. What's going on, girl? I see you. How you doing tonight? Who else we got in here?
Cody is king in there. Shout out to my boy in Canada. Cody is king.
Cody? Oh my God. What's going on, Cody?
Aside from that, that's the only negative, you know, about Cody.
Or did he live in Canada?
Canadian.
Oh God, Canada's not bad.
It's not bad. It's not. It's just not America.
Oh, see that American arrogance. That's why they hate Americans so much.
It is. They call us cowboys everywhere.
Terrible. Just
American cowboy.
Right.
We have a worldwide reputation of being crazy. You know that, right?
Yeah.
That's what they call us cowboys, because we're crazy.
Yep. And being arrogant. Lord. Who else we got to check? Information Man Show. How you doing? What's going on? Thank you so much for coming through. I hope you have time to get up on the panel too, because I really would like to hear what you think about this subject matter.
The Information Man.
Yeah.
That'd be good to have him up here.
That'd be interesting.
And we're if you guys notice, we're not talking about some red pill, blue pill nonsense. We're actually asking the question.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, April, how you doing? We're asking. Yeah, she's one of us.
Hello, how you doing, April?
Yeah, April's one of us, not like you, you know. I'm talking about the light skins.
Oh, Lord.
So, you fat, bald-headed, no-neck midget, I sentence you to 3,000 lashes for conduct unbecoming a black man.
There's nothing funny about that.
I'm crying.
There's nothing funny about that. Quantum Dean of Metaphysics. She's one of your kind.
Yes.
Not
how
light
you
skin,
doing? Oh my God,
not light skin, not dark skin, just kind of in between. Just not really sure what you are, what you do, what you think. She's just confused, like you.
Really?
So yeah.
Whatever.
She's confused.
Who else we got? Little King Reacts. How you doing? Thank you for coming through. What's going on? Andre Terry, how you doing, Andre?
What up, Andre?
Yeah, it's been a minute. Thank you for coming through. Let me see who else we got in here. Quantum Theme of Metaphysics. How you doing, girl? Thank you for coming in.
Yeah, that's my homie there, Quantum.
Yeah. What's going on? And April, what's going on? Speak to you again. How you doing? But yeah, so thank you everybody for coming through. We really appreciate y'all's support. We really, really do. We always appreciate the love, and continue to consume these conversations, and spread the conversations. I think this is a great topic, especially like I said, if we talk about accountability so much in these spaces, and if we don't have free will, like we don't freely make make choices from a rational level, then how can you hold people accountable? So that is the discussion we have tonight. So the next video we have is an example of showing how your brain can function without the frontal cortex. The frontal cortex of your brain is where that's a part that controls like rationality and like practicality and all that other stuff. So we're gonna go into that. So admin, cue us up. Fair use. Fair use, I can't say that enough, YouTube. Fair use.
Information man gonna pull up tonight. Watch, guaranteed. Because you asked him. When I ask him to come up, sometimes.
But I mean,
it's something you might spend a whole third of your life doing. Sleeping. When we sleep, we're supposed to be unconscious and at rest. But for some people, that's not always the case. These are people who sleepwalk.
Sleepwalking is a glitch in the system because our identity is not in control. And that's what a lot of my patients tell me, like, I didn't do that. That's not possible. This is not me. So sleepwalking, very common condition or phenomenon. Simply said, it's what the word is. You sleep, but during your sleep, you will walk. We take it for granted, right? But the walking is extremely complex. Just teaching a robot all the inputs and outputs for a body to move forward on two legs without falling. All of this, you don't even think about it. It works independently.
During sleep, your brain cycles through phases of high and low activity. When the brain waves slow down, scientists call this deep sleep. But when someone sleepwalks...
First of all, everything looks good. You see the brain waves. Everything is very, very monotonous, sort of slow waves. And then it's interesting to see there's a buildup of slow waves that the amplitude goes up, and then suddenly... So he's seemingly awake, sudden.
Yeah.
Looks like a sudden arousal.
Looks sort of scared.
Very brisk, very fast, eyes open. There's a sort of a split then.
The patient looks like they're awake, but a couple of key brain regions seem to stay asleep.
There's part of the brain stays in slow wave sleep. It's such a deep stage of sleep. It's hard to wake up, and the other part of the brain is already awake.
One part of the brain that doesn't wake up during sleepwalking is called the prefrontal cortex. It's the region of the brain responsible for deliberate choices and self-awareness.
This prefrontal cortex is the decision maker. The other areas of the brain can mostly work independently of that. So essentially, so many parts of the brain can be engaged without conscious awareness of it.
During sleepwalking, the motor cortex, which controls movement, the visual cortex, which processes visual information, and the parts of the brain that coordinate behaviors like balance and speech can all become active without engaging the prefrontal cortex.
And what exactly are you doing, ma'am?
It's a special code.
Experiences of sleepwalking reveal that being conscious is not an all or none situation. Our unconscious makes a lot of everyday decisions for us. for starters, boring stuff like regulating your heart rate and your temperature, deciding when to take the food in your stomach and move it down into your gut. Like, thank God we don't have to be aware of all that stuff. Motor function, sensory function, motor sensory integration, memory representation, all of this is happening below the surface, like the inside of clockwork.
So as you can see, your brain can function without the portion that is responsible for reasoning. So with that, like, you know, so like for instance, if someone is sleepwalking and, you know, they I don't know, just being extreme, stab somebody, how can you hold them responsible for that?
Well, that's more of a moral issue and a public issue of public safety. You know what I mean? Well, sure, everyone should be free to make their own choices and do whatever it is they like, you know. However, you still got to lock people up to protect the innocent from being murdered. You can't have that person running around free because free in society because now everyone else is in danger. That's where the accountability comes in, you know. Conscious or unconscious, that person is a danger to the collective, the group, the community.
Right.
So that's why you have to hold that person accountable for their actions.
Right.
Now, as far as that happens all the time. Like people actually talk to you when they sleepwalk.
Yeah.
There are people
because I mean, like all your other portions of the brain, like that control your motor function, to control your language, control all the other stuff. All of that is alert, but the frontal cortex is asleep.
Yeah, but here's the thing: the prefrontal cortex governs decision making, right?
Right.
This person also that means that this person is talking to you while not consciously making the decision to speak with you. The rest of the brain recognizes you and knows who you are, but that person is not at that moment making decisions. They're not. Like they're still asleep, as far as you know. And that's the thing. It's called compartmentalization. You know, we don't have to think about breathing. We don't have to think about regulating our body temperature. We don't have to think about making our hearts beat. You know, it's compartmentalized, but our brain is governing all of that. It's just partitioned off. You know.
Yeah. So you know, and that's why like there's this big issue now where they're saying that, you know, you're really not fully grown or not fully
until 25
because that's the age where our frontal cortex like actually fully develops, and up until then, you know, everything in your environment from socially, from, you know, what your parents teach you, everything, all of that is impacting the decisions that you make. That's why, you know, young people are so much more heavily influenced by, like, you know, social media and all these other social factors, their friends and all this other stuff, because you know, their logical and their practical reasoning hasn't fully formed.
Well, my thing is no one's gonna buy that in today's society.
Right, they just 304s.
Well, those people are making conscious decisions to do what they're doing.
Let me tell you something. 304s is saving the world. You hear me? They are saving the world. And I'm telling you, they are doing some good work in the community. Y'all need to give them the humanitarian award, because I'm telling y'all something. When women don't get sex, you just get attitude. You just get somebody who's grumpy, somebody who's cranky. You know what I'm saying? I mean, she might be a little mean and surly.
You can stop it.
No. Listen. Hear me out. When men don't get sex, people gotta die. Okay? How many mass murders have been committed by incels and people who have actually and made it known that their intent, and they're taking out their frustration and their anger on women because they can't get laid. Let me tell you something. Y'all need them 304 on.
Read what Cody S. King.
They are saving lives out here. You hear me?
Read what Cody S. King put in the chat.
He said, well, your hormones kind of stabilize too around there and affects your brain. Like, it does. And that's part of the argument. I don't know if you caught the first video, like where the scientists were saying they were making the argument of why free will doesn't exist. They were saying like, there are different factors that come into play, and hormones are one of the factors too. You have women who suffer from postpartum depression after they give birth, and postpartum depression is serious. Like there have been multiple cases of women who go as far as to murder their babies. You know what I mean? I've heard of women who they don't want to have anything to do with the child. Most mothers, some mothers who, after they have their children who don't suffer from that, they tend to, want to bond with their baby. They feel guilty for even like leaving their child, like with, for even 2 seconds. When they have to go back to work, they feel guilty for leaving their child.
If that's the case, how do you explain Munchausen's?
Explain what?
Munchausen's.
Munchausen's, what is that?
That's when a mother will make their child sick and keep them sick just so they can continue to care for them. Like, oh no, don't get up. Sit here, watch TV, baby. Just lay in bed and take it easy. But meanwhile, the mother's giving her...
she doesn't have postpartum depression. She has a whole nother mental condition.
Postpartum has been known to cause Munchausen's.
Oh, well, it could.
So how do you explain it? Is that one mother, because her hormones have changed now, is that mother now responsible for poisoning her child?
Hey, she's doing the act.
No, but the hormones have changed it, which affects the way she behaves and the way she thinks.
Yeah.
Body chemistry is different. Is she still accountable for that?
I think the child should be taken away from her. Like she shouldn't still like.
Oh no! Now you got the mother ready to.
No, because it's just like when you were saying before we played this last video. Whether you have like a mental issue or whatever is going on with you, you still can't have those kind of people amongst society, amongst the general public, because they are harm to society. Like
not society, just the child.
She's still harming her child.
No, but she won't hurt anybody else. The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few.
But she's still causing harm to the child. So
okay.
I
got you.
Robert Sapolsky, his theory is he feels like he's one of the scientists that was speaking like in one of the first videos. His theory is that we should abolish the criminal justice system altogether, and for those people who have like issues, like serious issues like that, like kind of quarantine them, because at the same time his argument is you can't have those kind of people, like even though they have their issues, you still can't have them amongst society, like general public, like because they are a threat. So like quarantine them off somewhere in an island somewhere.
Damn.
Right?
Isn't it the same thing though?
Technically is, but I mean,
no, I get it. Here's the thing. No, I get it.
Prison system, it's a whole like he was like abolishing
I get it, but the thing is, a prison today. I understand this point because a prison today is honestly nothing more than a dungeon.
Yeah,
a modern day dungeon. That's it. This is inhumane to keep someone in those conditions for such a long time.
Right. Solitary confinement it is.
No, even in those, the cell is 8 by 9 feet. 8 by 9. I mean, it's 9 feet long, 8 feet wide. You got your sink, your toilet, your bed, everything right there, except the shower. You know what I mean? So
what's his name? Buddha Man, who out now?
Fleece Johnson.
Yes, he's a prime example.
Yeah. He's the booty is more important than water. Water.
No, Lord Jesus, he out here being.
I like you, and I want you. We can do this the easy way, or we can do this the hard way.
Lord have mercy. He's a prime example of institutionalized all day.
Here's that guy's married to a woman now.
I know.
Who would marry him?
He's out here soliciting booty still because he's.
Is he really?
Yeah, because he said that she told him she wasn't into that. but he really likes booty. Like that's his thing.
So he gets married to a woman.
Mm-hmm.
He wants that.
He still want, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Still
How do
want
you pick that over what a woman comes with? I mean, I don't understand.
Because he explained it though. He was like his first time having sex was with a man, and it was anal. And so, like, you know,
his first time having sex ever?
Yeah, because he was like 14 when he first got locked up in prison. And you think about it, he was a virgin when he went to prison. And you think about it.
I don't know the guy's story.
I
don't know the guy's
story. It's an interview out now that he's talking about.
There's a new interview he's done. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And he's talking about that. He was like, because the interviewer asked him that too. You know, he was like, you got a whole woman, but you still missing, you know, anal. And he broke it down. Felice was like, you know, I was 14 when I first went off into the penal system. He was like, I was a virgin. And he said the first time I ever, you know, got some was anal. And that's all he knows. That's all he got.
Anyway, now I'm going to exercise my free will and get back on message. Okay, this is ridiculous. Okay. You and I can talk about this nonsense on the phone. Mm-hmm. I don't think our audience wants to hear about Felice Johnson. His infatuation with, as you call it.
No, because he was so sincere. He was at
that. I know.
Anybody, if you really just, could somebody help me out?
I'm trying to help you. by stopping this conversation.
Okay. All right. So yeah, back to subject. So
look at the chat. Look at Cody.
What is
look at Cody's face. Look at the face Cody made.
Listen, y'all gotta look that up. That is
shout out to Tommy B in the chat.
Oh, what's going on, Tommy?
Shout out to Corey Hager.
Corey, hey Corey, how you doing?
Yeah. Listen, that's wild. I just want you to know that.
Hey.
This is your fault, not like you to stop it.
Listen. Hey. That's it.
In this prison, booty. Booty was more important than food. Booty. A man's butt. It was more important. I'm sorry.
Wait, hold on. Just to be clear, okay? He made sure you knew what he was talking about. Booty.
In this prison, booty. Booty was more important than food. Booty. A man's butt. It was more important. I'm sorry.
A man's butt. I mean, look, he made you sure you knew booty. A man's butt.
Okay. It's like I said what I said.
Yeah, he to make sure you understood what he was talking about. Make no mistake, that's what he's talking about.
Oh, no.
Ridiculous. Shout out to Mr. He Said. Do the accent when you say it. Say, shout out to Mr. He Said. You heard?
Wait.
Word him up, God. Yeah, he's from New York. Him and Mrs. She Said.
Yeah.
They both from New York.
Shout out to Harris Media Tribe. You know what I'm saying? Know what I mean? Word up, son. Big up.
Know what I mean?
Know what I mean? Okay, just to get back.
Look at Tommy said. Tommy said, "I promise you, it's okay to move on."
Hey yo,
I'm trying to get it. I'm trying to move on, but these crazy dudes won't let me. Tommy.
So we gonna jump back in the video. I got 2 more videos, and then we gonna open up the panel.
Tommy said, "I promise you, it's okay." And look at Cody. Cody said, "What the F is that?"
In his prison, booty. Booty was more important than food. Booty. A man's butt. It was more important. I'm sorry.
Word, son. That's wild.
Let's okay. See, you see that? You see
That's
that?
not even us doing it this time.
That's a prime example of. See, he can't help it. That's free will. He can't help it. Okay.
Yeah, he can't. I don't know what's wrong with him. He likes to hear about booty, a man's butt.
It is what it is.
I don't know what his infatuation with it is, but you know,
a lot of it. Because if he went into prison when he was 14, can you imagine the trauma that he's experiencing?
Let's not.
So it's speaking of that,
next video.
That's important because I have this video, which is Robert Sapolsky. He's one of the scientists that spoke in the first video. Y'all be sure to catch the playback if you missed the beginning of the stream.
Yeah, because
but
we have some latecomers.
Yeah, because he goes further he goes further into detail as to why he believes that free will doesn't exist.
Okay, now
admin, play the video number 5.
And not Fleece Johnson.
Yeah, not Fleece.
Video number 5.
Along the lines of choice, I'd like to shift gears slightly and talk about free will, about our ability to make choices at all.
Well, my personal way out and left field inflammatory stance is I don't think we have a shred of free will. Despite, 95% of philosophers, and I think probably the majority of neuroscientists saying that we have free will in at least some circumstances, I don't think there's any at all. And the reason for this is you do something, you behave, you make a choice, whatever. And to understand why you did that, where did that intention come from? Part of it was due to the sensory environment you were in the previous minute. Some of it is from the hormone levels in your bloodstream that morning. Some of it is from whether you had a wonderful or stressful last 3 months and what sort of neuroplasticity happened. Part of it is what hormone levels you were exposed to as a fetus. Part of it is what culture your ancestors came up with and thus how you were parented when you were a kid. All of those are in there, and you can't understand where behavior is coming from without incorporating all of those. And at that point, not only are there all of these relevant factors, but they're ultimately all one factor. If you're talking about what evolution has to do with your behavior, by definition, you're also talking about genetics. If you're talking about what your genes have to do with behavior, by definition, you're talking about how your brain was constructed or what proteins are coded for. If you're talking about your mood disorder now, you're talking about the sense of efficacy you were getting as a 5-year-old. They're all intertwined. And when you look at all those influences, basically, the challenge is show me a neuron that just caused that behavior, or show me a network of neurons that just caused that behavior, and show me that nothing about what they just did was influenced by anything from the sensory environment 1 second ago to the evolution of your species. And there's no space in there to fit in a free will concept that winds up being, in your brain, but not of your brain. There's simply no wiggle room for it there.
Yeah.
So basically he's saying that
I know what he's saying.
Yeah, the choices that you make
it's for them.
The choices that you make are influenced by many factors, like what the situation is at the time. And you think about it too, like when you're hungry, you're more likely to have an attitude as opposed to when you eat something that now your mood is better, now you're happier. What you eat too, it can influence your mood.
Of course it does.
Okay. Yeah.
To put it in this most basic form for the smooth brains, anytime you ingest anything with capsaicin, depending on the capsaicin level of it, and capsaicin is things like jalapeno peppers, cayenne pepper, red peppers, things with hot sauce for the real smooth brains, the bowling balls out there. But anyway, for them, what? Yeah, if you eat that does change your behavior. Some people can't take it, and they try to flood their mouth with water or milk or some kind of beverage to wash out the peppers. And that affects your mood. Some people put them in a bad mood. Other people, they like it, they enjoy it, and it gives them a sense of delight, euphoria, and also during gestations, for some people, meat affects them in a certain way. When they get meat, they get more aggressive than they would if they only ate vegetables. There's been reports and studies to support that. But I think the more important thing is when the doctor was talking about the hormone levels that you're exposed to during utero, while you're a fetus. But I think all of this, the biological parts of it, add up to the type of decisions that you're most likely to make. The types of decisions that are you more prone to make a decision that's more assertive or more passive?
Yeah.
Are you more willing to cower or be heroic? Are you willing to take on challenges, take on danger, meet it head on, things like that? I think it's more so the biology goes more so into that, because that's things that you can consciously make a decision to break from.
Yeah, you can.
Because you can do something once.
If you're aware of it. But that's the thing, aware of it. Speaking of awareness, and speaking of something that the Dr. Robert Sapolsky said when he was saying how your genetics play a role in the decisions that you make, and they do. Ethnicity, like that you grew up in, like the community, the culture you grew up in, that plays a role. And for those of you who don't believe that trauma really can be passed down from one generation to the next, I actually have a video that actually shows.
You got a video?
Evidence, yeah, that trauma can actually be passed down from one generation to the next. Admin, let's play the final video.
Final video.
Right. Fair use. These things, oh Lord. I was gonna say they still popping firecrackers out here. I don't know if y'all can hear it.
Those are gunshots. You're in New York.
Bianca Jones Marlin is studying how your ancestors' experiences might control how your brain is wired today.
We ask how trauma affects the brain, how trauma affects the body, and really how trauma affects generations. People in the world suffer from traumatic events, and these traumatic events aren't just a one-time change on their brain and their body. It actually continues for seemingly their lifetime.
Bianca's research is inspired by her upbringing.
My parents, my biological parents, were all still foster parents, so I had foster siblings and adopted siblings growing up. Only now, as a scientist, I realize that motivates a lot of the questions that I ask. How do we understand what happens when kids are born into trauma and optimize what we do have for better generations?
To see this in action, Bianca studies mice.
We're able to map the whole genome of mice, target certain areas of that genetic code, and use them to answer the important questions in science.
So how could stress and trauma alter the biology of the mice's offspring? To find out, Bianca paired the smell of almond with an electric shock.
Because mice really navigate the world and rely heavily on the sense of smell, we use olfaction, pair it with the Lightfoot shock, and we observe changes in the brain and changes in behavior.
She noticed that something inside of the mice's noses changed.
We're able to look at the cells in the nose that only respond to almond, and what we observe is that after the Lightfoot shock and the presentation of almond coinciding, there are more cells in the nose that express the almond receptor. It's as if something in the milieu of the nose says, almond's important in this environment, we need more cells like you.
Mice grew more cells that responded to the smell of almond.
Each one of these green dots you see here, these are neurons. They're cells that can respond to the almond smell. These red dots are cells that were born after the presentation of odor and shock. And this cell right here, this red and green cell, is a cell that was born after the presentation of almond and shock that also responds to almond. This is the cell that we want to look at to see what information is inside, because we see more of these after the odor and shock pairing.
Remarkably, these changes were actually passed down to the next generation.
The offspring, the kids of the parents that were shocked with odor, were born with more cells that express the almond receptor, which means there's a memory that somehow is maintained in sperm and egg through implantation and represented in offspring. It is as if we are observing a change in evolution over the time span of one generation. And I just think that's fascinating. Because we as humans know how environment and how traumatic events change people. Just being able to take the science of that and being able to show that, we're just justifying what we already know as humans, what society has known for a long time, what individuals know. We just want to bring that to an undeniable truth.
Yeah. So basically, what she did was she created a trauma for the parent rats. Call them rats, but this was mice. The parent mice. She created a trauma, and what it did was each time the mice smelled almond, it created memory cells after she did the trauma, created that trauma. So like every time they smell the scent of almond, they automatically are triggered because they think about that electric shock. And when they had children, they saw those same memory cells that formed after that trauma passed on to the babies. So essentially, that's showing that trauma itself can be passed down onto your children.
It's not the trauma itself that's passed down. It's the warning systems of that trauma that's passed down. For example, they develop those cells in their noses as an early warning system because, again, they're not consciously doing this. The body's doing this on its own.
Right.
It's an early warning system for self-preservation because the body's trying to preserve itself.
Right.
Even in plant life, every organic life form on this planet, when it chips it down, when the pressure's on, it's concerned with one thing and one thing only, its own survival. So to preserve the species, the babies had developed those as well. It's for preservation of the species. Because essentially, the only thing, nature doesn't really care about us. It doesn't. The only thing it wants us to do is survive and procreate. That's the only thing nature wants from us. Other than that, nature doesn't care. But that falls under the category of survival. When you saw that, and it's evidence. It's evidence of evolution as well. Nakumbe, if you're still watching, man, I mean, you and information, man, y'all make sure y'all cam up. We've been doing this for about an hour. You got anything else before we drop the link?
I mean, you can drop the link down. It's fine. But those are my videos. But I just thought that was amazing. Still, like because those cells didn't exist before she triggered that trauma to them.
Right. It's because
it developed, and of course, like you said, for the sake of survival, and so and they pass that down to their children. So let me break this down to y'all. Okay, so when y'all be trying to hold single mothers accountable, right? Okay, so when
why do we have to do this?
Because I'm saying I got to relate this back to the.
You got to relate it back.
I got to relate it back. See what I'm saying? Let me show you how. This is how trauma is passed down from one generation to the next.
So this is for the small.
So during the whole crack era, right? When all the Black men were like they either strung out on drugs or they're in a victim of mass incarceration. The women were left to fend for themselves and the children, right?
Olympics, yeah.
So they figured out how to survive, right? And so they end up instilling that in their children. Hey, you don't need a man to survive. Guess what? You can do it on your own. You don't need his help.
Look at Cody's keys.
You don't need his help. You know what I'm saying? We out here doing it. And so then, the children, because their frontal lobe is not developed yet, they absorb that. They embrace that. And they grow up and they get out in the world and they're like, you know what? Yeah, I don't need no man. Guess what? So yeah, that's right. I can do this all by myself. You know what I'm saying? I can do it all by myself. So and that's what happens. It just goes from one generation to the next to the next.
Look at Cody King's last comment.
What he say? He's like, so Shu Shu, the kids are gonna feel that hectic. That's right, boo. Don't worry about my haircut. You know what I'm saying? Okay, this is a classic. You better know that. This will survive the test of time. You better know that. What's going on, Nick?
As I'm telling you what, I like you, and I want you. And we can do it the easy way or the hard way. So the choice is yours, right?
Wow. The choice is yours, right?
Yeah, what's good, y'all? What's good, man? You know,
that's
salute.
I like booty.
Man, that shit's crazy. Yo, real quick though, brother Cody is king. You know, Shu Shu gonna be on the platform tomorrow, 7:00, bro. If you free, admin, chill out for a second. Cody, if you free, Shu Shu gonna be on there.
I'm gonna be up there telling why 304s are out here doing the work of the Lord. You hear me? Y'all better start handing out these, you know what I'm saying, community service awards to 304s. Okay, I'm trying to tell y'all something. You better know it.
Just saying, Cody, she gonna be on there, bro. Everybody been wanting to see it. We building it up. I'm just saying, we're gonna be on tomorrow on a platform. We're gonna have Shu Shu there, bro. If you're free around 7:00 Eastern Standard Time, it'll just be you and Shu Shu. I'll get out the way. I'll just sit back and watch.
That'll be a good one though. If Cody is king and Shu would head up, you know what I'm saying?
Listen,
I like to sit down. And listen, Shu, Cody's tough now.
I ain't scared.
Cody's tough now. Look, you better eat your Wheaties.
And look, he's checking his schedule. He's checking his schedule. Like, I'll see. He's checking his schedule.
Cody's tough now.
I told you we're gonna make it happen. If not gonna be that time, it's gonna happen though. It's not gonna happen tomorrow, but it's going to happen. Look at me over here being Don King. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Okay.
Only in America
Only in America.
Have the most splendiferous and magnanimous challenge of this century. Yep. Anyway, we're talking about do you really have free will? Do we actually have free will? I mean, you saw the science, some of it at least. Again, a lot of this comes from a lot of the people who think that we don't actually have free will. DL comes from physicists. That's been my experience to see them. A lot of microbiologists, they think the same. In neuroscientists, they're of the same opinion. Okay, so also Dr. Nakumbi, don't be shy. Come up on the platform, please, and also the information man, if you could.
Right.
If you're not busy. So, Deal.
Yes, sir.
What do you think? And we just saw how the mind partitions off commands. You know what I'm saying? The brain sends commands to the body that are done in what we call the unconscious way, and we make our decisions and we exist in a conscious fashion.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think, man? Do you think we have free will? And what do you make of the science behind free will?
All right, I'll tell a story. Like, do we have free will? I don't know. I'm not, I'm not a high thinker like that. I'm not those people like, sitting in Ivy Leagues or something like that, Cambridge or Harvard or UPenn or MIT. I don't know, but I'll tell you this story. I'll tell you this story. I was young. I was probably, 10, somewhere between 8 and 12. And, we hood or whatever. So what did the kids in the hood do when they was outside, exploring the world? We went into abandoned houses. So there was an abandoned fire station. Right now, mind y'all, this is in the 80s, so it's an abandoned fire station. So it was a really, really old fire station. Matter of fact, they probably housed horses, and the horse probably had to pull the fire truck back then, right? We're talking about old, right? Wood structure, condemned.
Jedi Mike.
Right? Condemned. We in there playing around, right? My free will, I wanted to walk through this door that I saw on the second floor of this condemned fire department, right? I wanted to walk through this door, but the closer I got to that door, my legs gave out. I couldn't get to the door. Seriously, I just couldn't walk anymore. It's like my legs gave out. So my cousin and my cousin, like, what's wrong with you? Like, I don't know, but I want to go through that door. So we just went back like this. I don't know what it was. So we left, we went downstairs. Then we went into this huge chamber so we could see the other side of the door. There was no floor, right? And below the door was a pile of, rotting wood that looked like a bunch of knives that were all pointed up. Like it's just piling that. Yeah. So yeah, little Saint wouldn't have made it through that day if free will had allowed me to walk through that door. You know what I mean? So is there free will? I don't know. Because I really wanted to walk through that door.
Well, what I think happened that there was a subconscious thing that was going on with your body. Again, it goes back to your body protecting itself, even from yourself. Your body will protect itself. It probably sensed danger that you were not conscious of or cognizant of, and it stopped you from going through that door and experiencing whatever danger is behind that door. You know what I mean? That's probably what it is. That's why just your brain just like you're consciously telling your brain, move my legs. Okay, one foot in front of the other. That's how this works. And your brain's like, nope. Only in the opposite direction are we gonna do that, buddy.
Right, and I was gonna say what Cody just said, or was it my guardian angel? Because if I had a guardian angel, that he probably got a retirement early because it was hard keeping me alive. Mandrell was on my show earlier today, and I told another story of how I should have died. We were talking about our military time, and I told a story about how I should have died and I didn't. So I don't know. You know, is there free will? I mean, I think there's. I don't knock the science. I think there's something there. I'm definitely curious, and that's why I came on tonight because I want to hear a little bit more. So thanks for having me on. I appreciate y'all.
Yeah, not a problem. Thank you.
Black Corey Hager.
No,
what's going on?
Black Corey Hager, really?
I hope you guys are having a good day.
I hope you guys are having a good day.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, thanks for having me up here.
Y'all
leave Corey alone.
Well, if I may. Free will, as is a beautiful thing such as Shu Shu, I could say that if you go look at my next book, White Chocolate, a Corey Chronicle, you can understand that someone as beautiful as Shu Shu, it's against my will to fall in love with this black woman right here. And I'll say this.
I like booty.
Y'all leave Mike and Fleece Johnson alone.
I'm going to.
Y'all leave both Mike and Fleece Johnson alone.
I'm going to hell, y'all.
Lord.
With gasoline draws on, you going.
Mike, what are your thoughts?
Your joint's gonna be soaked in diesel. Your joint's gonna be soaked in diesel. All right, Mike, what are your thoughts on this? Free will.
Again, well, I mean, we're taking religion out of it, which I know people don't like that word. And I think that it does, predate saying, listen, by chance or by choice, whatever, how much actually freedom you have in terms of, your conscious mind. Again, a lot of things can be just based, been determined by previous behavior or whatever, right? Or experiences. We have a code as black people when some, go into a dark alley or an abandoned house, we said, nope, not today. With that free will, or that's just common sense. I don't know. That I kind of question what DL Saint was going through in the 80s, but I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
We tell you young boys, we was hood for real. That was life in the 80s, bro. The 70s, 80s wasn't no joke, man. It wasn't no bubbles. It wasn't no love. We had lead paint and asbestos and empty houses. That's just how it was, bro.
Yeah. Thank you to the black Corey Hager. Way to go.
But listen, I can say you can look at my new book, Love Memoir, A White Chocolate, A Corey Chronicle, coming on Amazon. And also streaming service.
That is Corey selling that book too.
I'm crying. I'm too much.
Okay.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Shut up, Mike.
Well, thank you, Shu Shu. Thank you, Shu Shu.
Thank you, Shu Shu.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming again. Once again, back this week. What are your thoughts on tonight's topic?
Okay, y'all got the giggles. I'll let someone else go next, and I'll just listen to their answers. I'm just curious.
You're just curious? Okay.
We'll come
no
back.
problem, Yusuf. You go on and contemplate the Torah. Now, Dr. Nakumbi, relationship expert extraordinaire, self-proclaimed relationship expert. We'll say that. Now, you're a man of credentials and qualifications. You've heard you watched the show. I'm hoping you got. Yeah, you were here for the very beginning of it. You've heard everything here. You've heard our comments and whatnot. What say you, sir? I mean, from your point of view.
Yeah. Greetings to the panel and you and Shu Shu and those who just joined, and greetings to those in the chat. Actually, for a quick second, I've actually struggled with that whole expert thing. Like, what makes a person an expert? Like, who gets to determine that? That's like, wow, who really gets to say that? So that title is like, really, really struggle. But in my industry, once you get certain credentials and time in, then that's the title you get. So speaking of time, this argument's been around forever in the psychology field about what's predetermined. Is it based on your genetics and or your environment, nature versus nurture? And then if you think about like drugs, so if you go back number of years ago, they were using cocaine in surgeries, alcohol in surgeries. And you could follow this and say, wow, well, it's been in the bloodstream for then decades. So then we've been pre-exposed to this. Then if you go the DNA route, well, it's in your bloodstream, but it hasn't been activated. Same thing with sexual deviance. I know right now in our society, we have a show that people are bringing kids to where they watch the people and they just have a little thong and stuff on. And I won't get into that whole conversation, but those shows, little do they know, those kids are being what's called pre-activated. So in other words, most likely history and research says that they'll be engaging in sexual activities as early as 9 years old. And then here in Minnesota, and we don't call them sex offenders because we don't call kids sex offenders, we say people with problematic sexual behaviors. My youngest age client is 9 years old, but they've been pre-activated. So imagine a light box put in, you just don't have a light bulb. So part of that is kind of what we call predetermined. The other part of this argument, and I'll land my plane, the other part of the argument is how much of it do you have free will? And I loved what you said earlier, Mandrell. There's the part where my brain is automatically going to help me breathe. I don't have to think about it or recommend or whatever. It just does it. So the other argument is, especially with the trauma, how much of this is already seeded or planted in my brain, but not acted out on until much later with intent. So you ever remember the days where your parents said, do that little dance for them? And you did the Michael Jackson dance or whatever when you were 4 or 5 years old, 6 years old, you did that dancing for the parents' entertainment. You didn't plan to do that, and you never thought you would do that on your own. Then you're 30 years old, and the next thing you know, you're telling your kid to their friends, hey, do that one, whoever's popular, then do that dance. And you're like, oh my gosh, I'm talking like my parents now. Mm-hmm. So you're doing behaviors that you never thought you would do, but it's already been planted in your brain. You just never activated it till much later. So anyway, that's my 2 cents on that topic. Thank you for letting me share.
Not a problem. I wanted to hear your point of view on it because you are in the field of mental health, as they call it today. It used to be psychiatric care. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's had your profession has had several names over the years, but yeah, I was aware that this is a debate in your profession for a long time. I was aware of that. That's why I wanted to get you up here and just, I'm saying, hey, help us out here. Give us a good point of view from a clinical side of things. My experience has been on the scientific side and on the clinical side as well. You know what I mean? Because talking to psychiatrists and psychologists, and I said, what do you think of free will? Was this my decision? Did I really do, that whole thing? And yeah.
Right. So if you ever hear, like, especially when I work with people who are having relationship problems, and they'll say, she wanted that. Come on now, quit acting, quit playing. You've always wanted that. Or when someone curses them out, you itch, and don't call me. You love when I call you. But right. If you come from a certain environment or previous history, even though you didn't like it, if it earned you attention. So see, bad attention is still attention. No matter how you get it, it's still attention. So if you getting cursed out was the negative act, but it still got you attention, then it could be 10 years later, you're in a romantic relationship and I'm calling you these names. And you're like, don't call me that. But at the same time, we're finding that you are getting aroused by it. So it's like even people would say, why am I aroused? Like someone did something to me that hurt me, but why am I getting excited by it? So there again, there's that. Was it predetermined? Was it those prior experiences that even though you didn't like the behavior, the stimuli that it provided the brain was different? And so now people will play on that. Oh, you know you like when I call you a bitch. Quit playing. Come here and suck on it. And it's like, oh, don't. And boom. Like, no, afterwards we should be fighting, but we're not. We're not fighting. Are you okay, Mandrell? I see you smirking up there. I'm not trying to entertain. I'm giving real examples.
Yeah, it's really, yeah, we're
Yeah.
It's real example. We've run across people who
Right.
just like that. It's like,
right. And you would think that they fight, but they don't, because as much as they didn't like it, they say, I don't know why when you do that, I like it so much. I don't know why when you X, Y, and Z, I still end up, because the actual act has been in their brain. All right, thank you.
Right, no problem.
No problem.
All right, thank you. Now, who's next? Mr. Bennett was next, right?
Bennett.
Man, Mr. Bennett, we've had things up, played things, talked about things, my sister and I. And again, these are actual conversations that she and I actually do have in the same manner you see here on camera. We call each other up and talk just like this. So it's an authentic conversation you saw. Now, what do you think of this whole thing, especially the part when it says, okay, trauma is passed down from one generation to the next? But I say it's not necessarily the trauma; it's the defense mechanisms that the body creates to help you recognize it, so to recognize when the trauma is coming. You know what I'm saying? Which causes the body to respond in a certain way. That and anything else here that you saw tonight, when it comes to, because I was talking to her and she decided to cut my part out. I was going to get into physics and quantum jumping, and she was like, no.
Well, first of all, shout out to everybody here and to the brotherhood of beautiful, black, bald, beneficent men.
Yeah.
Shout out to you guys. DLC.
Yeah, even the other
we are recruiting,
fat,
man.
bald head, no neck midget. I sentence you to 3,000 lashes for conduct unbecoming a black man.
DL, we are starting a movement. So again, you are more than welcome. Brother Corey Hager has also joined the movement. So we got, Brother Corey who's with us, an ally with us. So DL is offering the invitation to you to join our cause, join the movement. The revolution will not be televised. But
I'm down, bro. I'm down.
All right. All right. Again, another good conversation tonight. I guess the way I look at this and what the analogy that I was trying to get into my mind was that of a buffet, right? So you go to an alt buffet, everything is there. The spread, what you decide to, do you have free will over what you eat? I tend to think, yes, you do. But what you tend to eat, there's usually going to be a pattern. You can go to a buffet like every week or whatever, and there's some people, they get the same thing all the time because that's just the food that they grew up with. That's the foods they like, and they just stick with what it is. But you got some people, they just pick a little, I haven't tried that one. I didn't try that one last time. Let me try this one. So you can make choices. I think for me, how I can rationalize both of these is there's a possibility and then there's probability, right? Is it possible for human beings to make free will choices? I believe, yes, it is possible. How probable it is, it's less likely because, again, the way we are trained, the way we're conditioned, the culture milieux that we grow up with, the values that we grow up with, because it's easier to control or have control over a population when you have people thinking in like mind. So I don't think we see it really fleshing out in the world as much as it does. And that's why when we do see the times when it happened, I think about Muhammad Ali when, again, he had a choice to make. Do I step forward for this draft, or does it says, no, I'm not going? And he was willing to sacrifice and risk. Now, again, some of that choice that he made was also informed by his choice to join the Nation of Islam. And again, adopt some of those teachings that he had that they were very explicit about nation members not joining the military or fighting war. So you can't even say in that regard was certainly was that all of his choice. But certainly he came from a place, he grew up in a Christian home. He had the fame, he was the world champion, but he was able to make that sacrificial choice for something that he thought was a greater good, when it could have been very easy. He could have been joined the military, and all he would have been doing, like Joe Louis, he would have been doing boxing exhibitions and whatnot. So he wouldn't even been on the front lines, but he still made a conscious decision not to capitulate to the demands of the nation, was willing to go to jail for it. So I think it's certainly possible when it happens, and that's why we're always, when we see someone who's thinking in those ways, we're kind of awed by them. But I think just humanity, I think early one of the videos talk about, again, the social construct or the social contracts that we make in order to live together in society. I think that suppresses, for most of us, I'd probably say for 95% or more of us, that we don't have that agency to make those free will decisions, free will choices. But again, even when you go to the buffet, more than likely you're already coming in informed. You know you're going to go for maybe 4 or 5 dishes that you pick all the time. But some people, like say, hey, let me try that. Or you go to a restaurant, guys recommend something new to you. Oh, hey, that sounds interesting. I'll try that. And whether you like it or not, that still doesn't happen next time. So that's how I kind of look at it. So possibility versus probability is where I'm kind of landing with this.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. The other Corey Hager. Not the black one.
Yes.
Not the black one. Corey
Yes.
Hager.
The other Corey Hager? Really?
That's racist.
I'm glad to see that you've survived your bear attack. If those of you out there who don't know, Corey Hager was attacked by a brown bear. In other words, a grizzly bear. Which is something rare, because bears usually don't attack people.
Well, shit, that's some white shit. Black people don't
Yeah,
that shit.
Well, Corey, thank you for coming up.
Yeah, you can have that one.
Terrible.
What do you think of tonight's show? Do we have free will? What do you think of all this stuff about trauma being passed down? What do you think of Einstein's theory that we don't have free will at all? Like the Big Bang happened and the universe made things the way they are. We're going to do what the universe is already predetermined for us to do. So we're like drones or NPCs in a video game. We're going to do what we're programmed to do regardless. What do you think of that?
Oh, well, first let me give a shout out to my my mini-me up there in the top left.
I might be mini-me, but I'm big in other ways. You know what I'm saying?
Well, if you're my mini-me, it's
I like booty.
I got big books to write.
Oh, God.
Got big books to write.
Oh, my goodness.
How do you recover from that one? Don't answer that. In a serious answer, I would have to say everybody's given an option to make a choice.
Mm-hmm.
You will have to live with that choice, whatever that choice is. There's a lot of different ways you could answer that question. There's a lot of different ways, but I truly believe that everybody's given a choice, and that's the road you're going to take.
I was beaten up by a white polar bear. He had a Coca-Cola bottle.
There's no such thing as being beaten up by a white polar bear. You're dead.
Yeah. White polar bears don't beat you up.
But them white polar bears with the cokes, they be chill.
Yeah, they be chill.
Yeah, they live in an environment where there's no vegetables whatsoever. The only thing there is to eat is meat.
Yeah.
They tenderize with the Coca-Cola.
Oh, hold on. Not you got a question?
Yeah,
the other Corey, may I ask? So, based on what you said, so let's go with the analogy of when we're born. So, there's no application that we get to fill out to our higher power. Now, I don't minus religious beliefs. We didn't get to check off, give me freckles, I want glasses, blah 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 blah. So are you saying based on what we have, or no matter how we got it or how we get there to any particular point, any particular issue or topic or thing, it's the responsibility of what we do with it? Or are you saying, well, we can't choose what we get, but we can make changes to it, and that's the part we're accountable. So in other words, like if I wanted to have red hair, I can change the color of my hair. I said, well, the original hair wasn't red. I changed it, and now I'm responsible for the red. Are you saying that, or are you saying, well, I don't have red hair, I'm stuck with it, and I just have to deal with what I have? I don't know if I made that more complicated, but do you understand what I'm asking?
That's kind of a generic question.
Mhm.
You know that old saying, you can't choose your family, but you can pick your friends?
Right.
Okay, so I'm just talking on a basic level. The family you grow up in, the environment you're literally influenced by. Well, you take Hitler, for example. His mother was Jewish, and look what he did. He had mommy issues. That guy had issues. Everybody knows that. I mean, when you go take it upon yourself to go basically erase your mom's side of the family and anybody remotely connected to it, that's woof. I mean, he had a choice. He was an extreme narcissist though, and narcissists are very immature. And I actually did a little bit of studying on that guy. He was an artist in school, in
Flunked out
college.
of art school too.
Yeah, he was an artist, and he got offended because he didn't take a top honor or something with some of his work, and his brain it was already broken. I'm just gonna say he was already broke, but yeah, the problem was is he was very charismatic. See, everybody's given a gift, but how you use it and how it affects people is entirely on you.
Right. And that's probably what I was. Yeah.
But
So
I
think how you use it is up to you. Got it.
He had also been through war, the First World War as well, and the things he's seen and experienced was so traumatizing to the point where that was just all he knew. It created some sort of schism within him. And someone else mentioned earlier that actually it was Dr. McKimbe? He mentioned it, Mukimbe. He said that the things that happen in your childhood or from your youth can affect you later on down the line in your life. It may not take an effect at that present moment. It could take years or decades, but that's what happened to Hitler, if you want to speak about him in that way. So did he make a choice to cause to create that damage? Sure. But he saw what happened to his German people. He saw the atrocities that took place during World War I against him, the maintenance and everything that he experienced, the PTSD that we now know that's what it is what he experienced. So he only could manifest what he knew and what he saw at a young age. So it went from just being a boy who wanted to draw and do art and paint to losing that innocence as a result of war, and then him becoming a product of the environment in which we now know him today as Hitler.
Acting out on the impact of what he saw.
Still a choice nonetheless. He didn't have to choose to do that, but it heavily influenced his choice, his free will to do that.
Yeah, everybody has to make a choice. You're not given that part of your free will. You don't have. Everybody has to make a choice. Whether you choose to do nothing, it's still a choice to do nothing. You don't have an option not to make a decision. It's inhuman. It's impossible unless you're a vegetable.
Which choice you make is what you're saying.
Well, yeah, but you do not have the option not to make a decision. Everybody has to make a decision regardless of the outcome.
All right. Thank you very much. Beautifully Animated Speaks.
Thank you.
Then we're going to come to, of course, the Information Man right after you, Beautifully Animated. What say you, madam?
I'm up here with all these handsome men and stuff, you know what I'm saying? I'm just like I like what I see. And
No, you wouldn't have.
She got you holding. don't know why you
All I
waving
gotta
at
say is bring me booty.
The
Bring
hell?
Book two.
booty.
You
Yeah.
book two?
I starve days and nights
2 for 1
for the
special.
booty.
Okay. Thank you
Got
very
you.
much. But the
Oh,
free will, it is your free will to
Pause.
want booty if you like, but that's you go right
Okay,
ahead.
so
No, when it comes to free
oh
will,
no, she clapped too. Do that
what do you
again one more
think? Do you
time.
think
Just
we
slow.
have free will or no?
but, okay, so seriously, but one of the things that runs in my family is like we call them, some of us call them deja vu dreams, but they're the proper word for it is precognitive dreams. So what happens in our dreams eventually happens in real life. So from what y'all are saying about things being predestined and stuff like that, it kind of just, it sounds like the precognitive dreams is another form of it, you know?
Is it predicting what's going to happen next?
Yeah.
Right.
But it's for me, I don't remember it until it happens in real life, and then it's like, oh, that happened. But it's not like to where I wake up that morning and I remember the dream and know what to look for or something like that, you know?
Right.
So it's kind of I'm still learning about it, whatever. And as far as things being passed down, well, like I've always said that my temper was passed down in the family and stuff like that. It's like only a few of my cousins who don't have to be medicated to keep them from popping off. So it's you know, it's a lot. It's a lot of things I've been through that to where this makes sense.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, you're talking about the instance with the rats, where the rat, where the scientists actually forced the rats to associate the smell of almonds to electrical shock. So so to protect themselves, the rats actually developed vessels, memory cells, vessels and memory cells in their nose to recognize, okay, when I smell almonds, I'm gonna get shocked if I go that way. So they go the opposite way. Then when they had kids, the kids were the baby rats were born with those receptors.
Yeah, receptors. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean the thing is, so it's on both sides, but the major parent that I had to deal with, like seeing him black out and go into a rage or whatever, was my dad. And so it's like I was able to control myself better than him. So not just control myself, I just did better than him.
Right.
So it's still like a upgrade on an old model.
Upgrade on the old model. But here's the thing: like, if you're aware that you are temperamental, and you've seen that your father's temperamental, and you're aware that you have that, you can make choices to say that I'm not going to be that way. And like when you feel yourself getting angry, it's like, you know what? I need to calm myself down. Like I feel like I'm getting angry. I feel it coming. I need to step away from this for a second. I got to calm myself down. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like when you're aware of things, like you have the information, then you can seek the tools to make changes, because now you are aware of the whatever problems or issues that you have. You know what I'm saying?
Would you say that's part of the debate though? Because so Beautiful Animated is making her own decisions, right? So not in making her free will, but is based on. So even though the goal is to prevent from repeating someone else's behaviors, the goal is to not follow that path. But if you look at the core reason for the free thought, would we say that it's still based on something that's already happened? When we talk about free will, that's just one of the debates. Like, yeah, you may have created your own thought, or whoever, like when they say, oh, it was my own doing, my own thought, my own free will, but rooted in your core belief system, rooted in your fear of the consequence, rooted in blah, 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 blah.
Right.
Well, okay, so I'll say this. Like, my first blackout was I was probably like 7 or 8. I didn't see anyone in my family lose their cool like that. You know what I'm saying? So there was no experience to what's the word?
To like relate to?
Right, to trigger that in me. It just happened out the blue. So that again right there is something that is like my dad had it, and now I have it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Now, my man, the information man. Thank you. Welcome to the panel, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming up. I'm not sure how much of the show you saw tonight, but
I saw some of that, some of the stuff that you played tonight. That was I find very interesting. Some of that stuff, some of the stuff that I'm going to explore on my other channel, Classified Black. And I wanted to say this to folks, that what we think is free will is not really free will. One of the things that's missing here is that we are under the constraints of a system that controls what we see, what we do, how we behave. So we are preconditioned by the environment that we're in. And then we want to have free will. But the truth of the matter is, do we really have free will, when free will is the ability to act on one's own discretion without necessary adhering to a faith? We live in a very heavily religious society, which we are told if you behave this way, you go to hell or you go to heaven. But then we fail to really analyze the world that we live on and realize that we may already be in hell and just don't realize it when you look at so many of the dangerous things that can kill us on this planet. And you have to ask yourself, where do we really think we are? Most of these scientists, when we look in the sky and you look at birds and things that we call birds or dogs, how do we know that that's really what that is? We only know what we know because another human told us that's a dog, that's a cat, that's a sky. How do we know what any of this shit is down here? We really don't. And another mistake that we make, which confines our ability to have free will, because I think the original people that were here probably understood, when you look at ancient societies and how they had a more connection to the universe. When you look at the Dogon tribe in West Africa and how they were able to figure out the dwarf star in the solar systems without any computer technology, and nobody can figure that out today, is because they were more in tune with the universe. Therefore, that made them have more free will. They weren't constrained by man-made constructs. So we spend a lot of time in America, in this world, saying, I'm a black man, you're a black woman, that person's white, this and that. These are social constructs which destroy our ability to have what we would call free will. We're also constrained by this thing called a clock, right? There's 24 hours in a day, 365 days in a year. Don't keep this in mind. The time that we're operating off of is human-made time. If you really do your research, time is not linear. Time is circular. So, and they also got us very much focused on when we lose a family member because they're no longer here in the physical, we lose them and we cry and we're upset, and we should be, because we had a physical connection to them. But we have to understand They're physically not here anymore in their body, but their spirit is still here, and they don't stop ending because life is circular. If you ever look at plants, flowers, leaves, look at how nature is. Everything is circular in nature, right? So the life cycle never really ends.
Right.
Okay. So my point of view is that at one point in time, there were humans, in my opinion, who understood the idea of free will, but we lost it down the way the more we became sophisticated and started creating more rules around controlling people. So the difference that separates us from animals is that a dog will piss anywhere on the streets, anywhere. They will hump each other. They'll hump you. They have sexual intercourse based on time of the year and seasons, where humans, we can make a decision whether I'm going to kiss a woman or make love or go somewhere. We can make a decision. That's called a choice. I don't necessarily know if choices are actually free will, because your choice is being made off of constraints that have been created artificially to keep you under control. We call it social control. So I think humans in our modern trajectory, we've moved so far away from the idea of really understanding what free will is. And I got to say this to you too, Mandrell. I saw the video and I've always had a debate about this, when they said they say that the universe and the planets got created by
the Big
Bang. When I was in college, I've asked a lot of astronomers about this. I've asked these questions. Okay, if the world was created by the Big Bang, can you tell me how did the Big Bang get there in the first place to become the Big Bang to go boom, the Earth is created? They can never answer that. So that has to speak to a very logical question here. We really don't know what we think we know. For example, I'm 53 years old. How do I know that I'm really 53 years old when I'm following a calendar of time which has really been designed to control me? When you look at your calendar, have you ever noticed how you got 28 days in February, you got 30 days here, 31 days here? That's humans controlling time and trying to control time and space when they really can't. So how do you really know? How do I really know that I'm 53 years old, or I may be older than this? We don't know. This is all human constructs. So when you look at the Big Boom, I can tell you this for certain. If you've done any study on melanin, what are black holes made of? Dark matter, melanin. Everything on this planet has a connection to melanin. So yes, there was dark matter, but these scientists can never tell you how the dark matter got there.
Yeah, they don't know. But when it comes to
right,
dark
so
matter,
then you have to question. Well, you have to question, and I don't mean to go on here, but you have to question the Big Bang theory when they can't even explain that. And if they can't explain that, then answer this: how can people in the continent of Africa, Dogon, who they deem as primitive, how could they figure out various areas in the universe and stars that humans with all of our computer technology can't even tell you how that they couldn't even find it themselves? And when they went over the data, they said, these men, how did they do it? Now, there's all type of fantastical stuff, such as in their culture, they believe they were visited by other life forms that came down, right? But then there's the question of free will. And I just believe that our ancient ancestors had more free will than we have today. Our technology has actually made us more inferior than it has made us superior. They can't even tell you how they can't even map out a pyramid. I'll explain that. So that's my hypothesis about this issue of free will. I think humans have lost the ability to comprehend it because we live in a world that puts us under constraints. So we are conditioned to do things based on the environment that we live in, how we grew up, what we experience. But is that free will? No, because free will is the ability to do what you want, when you want to do it, how you want to do it, without any constraints and having to worry about the consequences of it. But we worry about consequences sometimes. So thank you, Mandrell.
Information, Matt, ask you a question.
Yes, sir.
First of all, thank you so much, and I totally agree with you. In fact, I was just asking, are these thoughts based on consequences or blah blah blah? Pretty much what you were just talking about. With that, with our current society saying that a 6-year-old can decide if he is a she, would that lend to I get to create my idea of who I am and what I want to be? That's that free will thinking. Would you agree to that? Would you say that's
I would say, dear doctor, that has more to do with how the environment dictates your behavior. So, for example, we're all old enough up here. When I was growing up, I remember there was a time when, for example, everybody would get ear piercings. You had the belly button piercings. And for some reason that was a fad and everybody was adhering to what the environment was saying is something that you should do. Well, look at what's happening today. You have a lot of ladies that are getting these bull piercings in their nose because is that simply their free will, or are they simply doing what seems to be a fad right now? Or if the environment is dictating that it's okay to be gay and that person was already gay, and now the environment is making it more safe for them to live out who they are, it's a choice that they're making, but is it complete free will, or is it also being reinforced, or is their free will being reinforced by the environment that's telling them I can be who I really want to be? Because prior to that, most people in the gay community had to be in the closet, right? They couldn't really come out and show who they were, even though they willingly wanted to, but they could not because society and the environment dictated that would not be acceptable. Now it is acceptable, whether we like it or not. So the question is, we know that kids are heavily, you know this, doctor, kids are heavily influenced by their peer groups. I remember growing up when I used to break dance and the Puma shoes and the Adidas shoes were popular and the Adidas sweatsuits, and I couldn't afford any of that shit, but I wanted to get that. Was it because I freely willed wanted that, or was I influenced by the environment that said that's to be coveted? So when I look back, I did a lot of stuff as a kid based on what looked cool and what the girls were liking, right? Because I wanted to fit in. So how much free will, doctor, do we really have, even when it comes to sexuality and our behavior in society? For example, I know, Shu Shu, hear what I'm saying here. Why is it that we've been culturally conditioned that when we get married, that we must buy a diamond ring to put on a woman's finger as a representation of a marriage? Who determined that the diamond ring should be the ring that we should pick? Why can't we pick other types of rings or other types of things that represent our marriage? Why a ring? Or in particularly a diamond ring?
That's all the
because every kiss begins with K.
That's right.
No, I'm not saying. I mean, I know ladies like diamonds, but you have to ask yourself, how did you, as a lady, why is it that a diamond ring, if it is, why would a diamond ring be something that you uphold more than any other ring? Is it because society has taught you culturally that the diamond ring is to be coveted?
What about onion rings? The less than 300 pounds.
Now you trolling now.
Depending what culture you're in is not a diamond. It could even just be a string. Depending what culture you're in, it's it's even a different hand. It has a totally different definition. So again, I think you're right about the influence and about what's handed down, story after story, generation after generation, traditional versus whatever. And even the calendar that you mentioned, I don't even think our calendar is the same as like the Chinese calendar, right? Aren't they?
No. Doctor, that the calendar, ask yourself, why is it that we don't operate off the solar calendar? Right? And check this out.
Empire, that's why.
That part.
This part people may or may not be aware of. You know, the reason why on the calendar, the 12-day calendar that we live under, which is which is human made. There's some, like I said before, there's some days that are shorter than other days. You know why that happened? Because you had rulers and kings who said, hey, why does this guy have more days of celebration than I do? A lot of these days were celebrations, just like you had in Rome, where they had the Greek, not the Greek, but they had the games, right? The gladiator games, and they would go on for 3 whatever days, or the Greek games. A lot of these calendar days were based on a ruler wanting to have more attention paid to him than someone else that was his rival. So that calendar that we operate under has completely ruled us. We're so focused on time that it controls us when we get up, when we go to sleep. We're almost like victimized. We're almost like ants in an ant farm. I hate to say it.
Right.
But I'm gonna rest my plane there.
All right.
What is this? Hey, wait a minute, Jet, what are you doing? And he got his white beater shirt on.
Yeah, he just got out of prison with this guy.
I like booty.
You wearing an incarceration white beater shirt.
Hey, so information man, didn't you say everything was circular?
Okay. We've been taught that time is linear, but the reality is that time is circular. So it never really ends. And the reason why that we don't always see it that way, it goes back to what I was talking about earlier, because we've been culturally conditioned to follow a system of time that's really artificial. And the truth of the matter is, I was saying before, we really don't know where we are, how old we are, any of this shit that's on this planet. We really don't know, other than what someone told us when we were born into the world.
Right.
So that shows you that the universe is an ever-going mystery. But one of the things I can say to my beautiful black folks on this panel is that
thank you.
Think about it like this. If black holes or the universe was also created by melanin, and we're some of the most melanated people, then you got your answer of divineness right there. And this ain't about saying you're better than someone else. It's just you have to understand that
black holes.
It's in our DNA. If you for example, I know he wants to troll. No. For example, melanin is in our water. Melanin is in our ears, our eyes.
Wait.
It's in the photosynthesis of plants. It takes in energies and negative and positive energies. Yes, sir.
Listen to the brother.
Like, what is going on? Is this you way off the topic? Like, so far,
Well-
left field, it's bizarre.
Well, it may sound bizarre to you, brother, but the reason why I brought it up,
what you're saying,
and I felt that it was a good part of the topic.
Taking up a lot of the time from other people who came on here to talk about.
Hold on.
All right, well, I'm getting ready to drop off the panel. I didn't mean to take up all the time.
You didn't.
And
No problem.
and if you didn't appreciate what I was saying, then I don't really care anyway. But anyway, peace to everybody on the panel. I'm getting ready to drop off. Take care. Now you can have all the time to talk, sir, since it was a problem for you.
It wasn't about
Blackman had asked the question. He was answering Blackman's question.
Yeah, Blackman asked the question. He was answering Blackman's question.
This is Shu Shu, Mandrell's show, and Blackman's channel. So if there was a problem, they would have said so.
Yeah, he was answering Blackman's questions. That's why he kept going.
Yeah.
Blackman came up and asked him a question.
But I mean, I appreciate that though.
Yeah. Yosef?
I'm just dumbfounded.
You know.
That too. Jewish. What do you have to say?
No, I really wanted to hear everyone else's opinion.
Okay, Blackman Unfiltered. You up here for some reason. What have you on this topic?
I'll keep it short. I think that it's
you don't have a choice.
Yeah. I think everybody, I do feel like everybody does have free will. I think that people just, now after hearing everybody, I've learned a little bit because if you really look at free will, man, it is choices, right? You got a choice to do one thing and another one. It's like an open-ended question. Like if I say, hey, Shu Shu, most men will walk up to a woman and say, hey, listen, would you like to go on a date with me? and she could say no. Or you could go to a woman and say, hey, listen, Shu Shu, would you like to go to the movies with me on Friday, or would you like to go to the skating rink? Right? Open-ended question. I give her options. She has to answer one, right? And so I think that
what it is that what it is this.
Go ahead.
We said we have choice, right? Blackman. What governs that? Now, what we got into tonight, what we were trying to show you guys is, okay, the question of tonight is what governs that?
Right. Yeah.
Are we the ones consciously governing that, and consciously making those choices? Or is there something about our biology or something about the way the universe operates that makes the situation not really our choice?
But you know what, Mandrell? You just made a great point. Let me tell you something. I'm always watching the science stuff. My sons are a super nerd. So we always watching the science stuff. Like Shu Shu, the video you guys played about the sleepwalking. Listen, let me tell you something. If your body gets to a point where if you do something to your body and it gets to a point that your body needs to take over, it'll shut your ass down.
It sure will.
Your body will shut you down. And that's just like even if you go 3 or 4 days without sleeping, or 5, or you try to go like the guy was in the did try to do the little the hot air balloon challenge thing, and he was woke for 24 hours or 36 hours, something crazy, and his body shut him down,
right,
and put him to sleep in midair, right, and because he wasn't getting any sleep. So even if you go through hypothermia, your body takes control, pulls all the blood from your feet and your hands, and sends it to your organs to keep you alive.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So right now, looking at free will, it's kind of different now.
Right.
For me, I'm looking at it different now.
Right.
But BMU. So when you say, so you're correct. She has the final say. She's the decision maker. But based on some of those videos they showed, is it fair to say that her choice, but they're rooted in how much sleep is she going to get if she goes out? Is this a worthy investment of her time? Blah, blah, blah. So it's still rooted in some other constructs in the brain.
Right. Other factors that come into play.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Because it's creepy, guys. It's creepy to see those people get up in the middle of the night and cook. I've seen shows where people have got up in the middle of the night and cooked breakfast while they were asleep.
And the point of it of showing y'all that is that, Blackman, the part of the brain that governs your consciousness, meaning your decision making, is completely turned off.
It's sleep. Yeah.
Yeah. Those people would do all that, have a whole conversation with you, and never remember it. They'll never know because they were not awake. They're still they're literally asleep. And the thing is, they'll have a full conversation with you. Even the thing is, all of that was none of that was their decision, though.
Right,
they did not make that decision. So it's like, okay, if you can do this without making the decision to do so, do you really have free will, or is it the rest of the brain doing it? Like, which is it? Like, these people didn't have free will. They cook breakfast. Some people clean up. Some people sit there and have a full conversation with you, Blackman, Unfiltered.
Right,
and it's not their decision to do so.
And that's what I was going to bring up. Even remember some years back when the guy got up in the middle of the night. He was an avid sleepwalker, and he got up in the middle of the night, and he deleted his wife in her sleep.
Yeah, and that was not his choice.
And he went to court, and he got off. I mean,
it was not his choice to do so.
Right.
Consciously do that, harm his wife. So in cases like that, that's one of the questions Shu and I brought up tonight. What do you do about that?
Right.
He didn't make a choice to do so.
Did he already want to kill her?
They had to still take responsibility.
So what?
He wasn't responsible for it.
He wasn't. He was sleepwalking, honey.
He didn't know he was doing it.
I know that, but I'm saying, didn't you Shu Shu ask your brother earlier about that, and he said he still has to be accountable or something?
That's if in the case of like people who do go murder people, like.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah, well, if it's a one-off.
So is that guy still single, or did somebody marry him?
Man, listen, I wouldn't. If I was a woman, I would walk right past his ass, because think about it. If he fall asleep on a plane, he can get up and just start murdering people on the plane. I mean, I'm not being funny. I'm not being facetious. I'm saying, like, if he's like that, that's a dangerous person to be around if he falls asleep.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But what's at the core of his actual act? I'm not saying he wanted to kill his wife, but the people who are making breakfast, why are they not going outside and playing in the snow? I mean, people do, they do. But I mean, the actual
They have people
act that
walking
they
down
do,
the neighborhood butt naked. Just
right? But at the core is the actual going. How do they know how to unlock the door, to go to their so and so, to go to those things?
No,
are
they
kind of like,
see it. Yeah, the thing is,
yeah, they see it.
They see it.
Right.
They see the door. They see the lock. The thing is, they're operating because their brain knows what everything is. It's just the part
Right.
of their brain.
The conscious part of the brain is
conscious
not.
part of the brain is just not there. They're not making these decisions to do this.
Right.
It's
Right.
crazy to watch, dude.
Right,
Because I've seen a lot of it take like that. Like Shu and I, one of our grandfathers served in World War II. Well, both of them did actually, but both of them did actually. But our mother's father served, and he got kicked out.
He got kicked out because
he was sleepwalking. Right? So,
Oh, yeah. No, I know it's real. I've had to testify in a couple of cases. There's a such thing as, insomnia. There's a such thing as sex insomnia. So there are people who have actually, it's the same thing. So
wait, what? Hold
your
up.
brain, and you guys can do the research. We have a couple of cases in court where the brain is, the person is having sexual intercourse, but it is like sleepwalking.
Oh, absolutely.
They are totally out of it, but they are
I never
having
had that.
sex. And then the person who they did it with didn't give consent for these court cases.
Hold up, yeah, hang on. No one here has ever had, especially if you're married, ever had sex in your sleep where you woke up, you went to bed,
sex
with
insomnia.
no sex, you woke up and you looked down and you realized you had sex. Nobody's ever experienced that?
Hell no.
And we're not talking about self-soothing. I'm not talking about you look
I'm
down
not
and
talking
like,
about self-soothing. No, I'm talking about you and your wife.
Yep.
I'm saying like you and your wife, you guys, you go to bed, kiss, good night, go to sleep. You wake up in the morning, and she's talking about you were an animal last night. It's like, what are you talking about?
Well,
so you mean to tell me? You mean to tell me something possessed my body and fucking shit out my wife?
No, you did it. It's just you didn't.
The hell?
You didn't decide. Here's the thing. We have a specimen of what Dr. Nakumbi is talking about right now.
Spirit. Absolutely.
Hey,
I thought that was normal behavior, especially when y'all, young
It's a
and
sleep disorder.
all that. But
Dr. Nakumbi, that would be a great show, bro.
Maybe I can.
Yeah.
That would be a great show to have, bro.
You woke up really relaxed that morning, didn't you?
Well, I'm a light sleeper, so I'm not worried about that. I'm a real light sleeper.
All these modern people, I can't believe that's never happened. All right, doctor, maybe I had a condition back.
It's alter ego, Mr. Brooks. Told that ass up.
It is it's part of a sleep disorder, but I've actually had
His name
cases.
is Bennett, and he was in it.
Oh no!
That's hilarious.
Yo, listen, I'll just say, now, Dr. Nakumbi, like, again, I study all things science. I really do. As much science as I get, scientific literature as I can get my hand on, I should have just, what they call it? I should have just got a degree in all this stuff. Like, I've read so much, seriously, I've read so much literature on it. Like, I was in, you remember Daddy was in school, and he'd come home with those books like microbiology, human anatomy, and physics. I would read those books and understood what I was reading. So I mean,
So how were you as a student, Mandrell? Were you like a science savant? Were you
I was bored. To be honest, I was bored. I was bored at school. Real talk. At school, I was bored, and it's because say you get the test or whatever.
Well, that's why they had to make advanced classes.
And I was like, it just wasn't a challenge. So I just figured, what's the point of this? You know what I mean?
Wow.
Like every teacher every teacher I had would tell you this kid is brilliant. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? But it's like, okay, why'd you get a B on this test? Because they'll ask me the questions to the test, and off the top of my head, I'll just give them the answer. They're like, okay, that doesn't make any sense. You should have a 100. I'm like, what was the point? I was just trying to get it over with.
Right. So let's
I'm surprised someone didn't snatch you up though. That's unfortunate.
Yeah, shit. He just didn't
should have snatched you up and put you into some sort of program or something. But that's a problem.
Hey man, we were black in Montgomery, Alabama.
Did you have a question? I thought you were about to ask me a question.
Oh no, I was gonna ask. I thought you said wanted to say something.
No, I'm good.
No,
I'm
hey,
good.
so I want to say this real quick before we end to the show. Mandrell and Shu Shu go to final thoughts. Mandrell said something earlier about passing the trauma down. So while he was talking, I was, researching. So that trauma, and help me out, Dr. Nakumbe, that trauma can be passed down to a child. It could be so severe in most cases. I'm looking at it right now, guys. It could be so severe in most cases that the child will take on the complete characteristics of the parent who passed it down to them. And that's why you can see so many women who are very, and this is going to hurt, but there are a lot of women who are very sexually promiscuous. And you see their daughters who are the same. And the same mannerisms, the same attitude, the same way they mama talk, the same way they mama handle things. Like the trauma is completely passed down to their children. Fathers pass it, like even with the boys take on the same characteristics of the parent who gave them that trauma. And it's weird. I'm sitting here reading. I'm gonna be up all night reading this shit. Y'all got me started reading all this shit. But it's real that this stuff can be passed down and it can affect children. Even I've read a case here where a mom had a son. Hold on. There's a case of a man having a heart transplant, guys. Watch this shit. A man a man deleted himself. After he deleted himself, they took his heart and they put it up for a heart transplant. This guy received his heart. The wife of this guy went to him just to see the man who took the heart. After a while, she fell in love with this man. The man had his heart. After 12 years of marriage, her first husband deleted himself. Her and the man that got her husband's heart were married for 12 years. On their 12th anniversary, he deleted himself.
Oh wow! Really?
The trauma, right?
No. That just might be that woman might be driving dudes crazy.
I was thinking she was the problem.
Yeah,
she was definitely the problem. 12 years and they were out.
That's too spot on there, man.
But there's a thing called epi.
Same woman in the same heart.
Right, man. That's what I'm saying. So like he deleted himself, and I'm thinking, damn, it's either the woman or that man had a lot of trauma in his life and passed that organ on to that other man, and that man took on some of those characteristics of that man.
Right.
Okay.
So within your 6 months
hi guys. How you guys?
Hey, how's it going? In the 6 month of pregnancy, or the last 3 months, a woman's personality is transferred to the child. Personality, and so the first 2 years, personality and characteristics of the mother is passed on. But previous to being born is called epigenetics.
Right, yeah.
Those epigenetics, if you have trauma, so please remember, trauma is an injury in the brain. It's not just something just thought about. It's an actual injury to the brain. And so the epigenetics, or what we would call like microgenetics, are passed on to that child. And much like I was talking about earlier with Beautiful Animated, that stuff is it's already there. Now, when it's sparked or triggered or ignited or whatever, that point can determine if it's 2 years, 10 years, 20 years. But yes, you are correct, Blackman Unfiltered. It is epigenetics that's passed on, and that kid can be impacted by the parents' trauma.
One thing is this, right?
Hold on, Ikane, real quick. Hey, what's going on, man? Ikane, I'm sorry, I want to pronounce it wrong. Let me say this one thing, then we're done. I'm done, and Ikane, you could go and we can shut it down. So when it comes to this, Dr. Nakumbe, I know this is not a hot subject. A lot of people don't believe this. But do you think generations of people who did not get the mental help that they needed from even slavery could be passed down to currently now and to some people as well, genetically?
Well, much like I was talking about cocaine. So cocaine they used to use in surgeries in the 1800s, right? Early 1900s, and that still impacts in the DNA. So generational trauma, especially if you didn't even know you passed it on. So sometimes you hear me talk about the way we are acting now, or you hear Scam like you talk about traditionalism, how it's impacted us, but it's also impacted 2 to 3 generations forward. And just like if you look at a person now problems, yes, it's their problem, but it's stemmed from 2 to 3 generations back. So when you take issues that have traumatized the brain, and research has shown, medical research and psychological research has scanned the brain and shown that the same injury was there decades later. And so when we pass on the impact to each generation, then yes, there are still things that we as a people or a group or whatever you want to call it, families, cultures, and societies are still living off the impact of things that happened even in the 1800s.
Yeah, there are. All right, Mr. Ikene.
Yeah.
Welcome to the show. Thank you for coming back, man.
You're welcome. There is something that we are missing here. So she married the first husband at the 12th year. He killed himself. They did a heart transplant, and then the other guy got it, and then she married the guy the 12th year. That guy also deleted himself.
Mm-hmm.
That is not scientific. Neither is he a human factor. There is something that we don't know. Especially, I see that very, very common in the US, right? That is far more deeper spiritually than it is physical. Because I got to tell you this: if you go find out something about that man, the first man, right, or the woman herself, you got to find out that somebody did something many years earlier. Not the woman, not the man, but somebody, maybe the father or the mother of either of them. So they were cursed. You see what happened, right? And sometimes it has to do with infidelity. Somebody must have gone and had sex with somebody, or that led to the destruction of that family. And then the husband of the woman will put a spell on the other man that destroyed his family and say that nothing good will ever come out of your family. But sometimes they're specific. They will say that because it may have led to death, right? And then they will put a spell on that person based on death. That's one thing that is not done in the community here in the United States. People are not going to sorcerers. People are not going to spiritual means. Travel out of the country, go somewhere, and find out who did what. If this thing is common in our family, right, or common in this family, you got to go find out who did what, because that means somebody was cursed. So something like this is not a woman. It's not the woman. Don't put the blame on the woman. It's somebody that was cursed. Either her grandmother was cursed, or her father was cursed, or either side. But either the first man that had that deleted himself in his family, or the woman that got married in her family. But because her heart transplant was done, right, that led to the second man dying, that means it came from the man's side of the family. So something happened. Because you'll be surprised, a lot of things that happen in a lot of people's family today is two things that do happen. People don't find out what their grandfather or their grandmother did, or somebody down the lineage did that led to family being cursed. That's number one. Number two, when you want to marry somebody, I keep saying this all the time, vet the woman, number one, or vet the man, number two. But number three, find out their family history. Because when you marry somebody, you marry the curse. You marry the spell. So if that person's family was cursed, your kids are going to be cursed. You see what I'm saying? Be careful who you reproduce with. People don't want to know. People don't care because they just want to have sex and have kids. But you're not having sex and having kids. You're also bringing in cause. So how do you stop this cause? How do you got to go somewhere that those bonds have to be broken? Things are spiritual, but we don't want to know because we're all sexually active.
Right. Oh wow, that's so true. You know what? I was just thinking about that. I think something that would be interested is doing a show on like curses. I think that would be interesting. Like going back or like just exploring that. But I thank you for that.
Wait, you honestly want to do a show on metaphysics?
Yeah. Why not? We talking about what you call free will.
You should do it. You should do it because I gotta tell you why you should do it. A lot of families are cursed. You got to understand, America has gone through wars. And in these wars are atrocities that are committed in foreign countries as spells were given. This country was a land of slavery that did a lot of bad things to people. So those slaves that came in caused a lot of families. And some families that did things, a slave did things to other slaves in order to be ahead, also received curse from those slaves, you see. So people curse themselves. But I gotta tell you, if you want to cleanse this country, a lot of shit are gonna happen because a lot of people are cursed. A lot of people out there are cursed, but people don't want to do that because to them is you open up a whole lot of canker worms. So they rather go blind than to turn that torchlight in the midst of this darkness. Because when you turn on that torchlight or turn on that light on, what you're gonna see, you're gonna be dead the next day. So you choose your pill, you choose your poison.
Okay.
Right.
Appreciate it. We just might do that. All right. Thank you for coming, Ikene.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, appreciate that. So you really want to do a show of metaphysics? Spells and hexes and the boogeyman. So what about the boogeyman? We got to look. Reach out to Courtney Michelle because for whatever reason she doesn't want to do the show when I ask her to. Maybe it'll help if you ask her because she's into that. She's into the yeah.
Well, you know what? I'll do that because I just do. I think that
Mandrell, you're too bright. Why are you so bright, Mandrell?
You know, well, stop that.
In her Tennessee accent.
Terrible. Well, anyway, that is our show. Thank you everybody for coming through. Thank you to everybody in the chat. Thank you for everybody who came up on the panel. Mandrell, as far as this free will does or does not exist, what you think?
Really, it's like information man says, you don't actually know.
Yeah.
But call me arrogant. I just don't like the thought of not having that much control over my actions and over my body and over my destiny. I don't like that. I don't like that. So I think it does exist. I tend to do things because I wanted to make that decision.
Right.
You know what I mean, some things you do subconsciously and you don't realize that you're doing it. Some things,
right.
Yeah, you don't realize you do, but I chose to do laundry today.
Right. Right.
You know what I mean? So it's like, that was my choice. So yeah, I think so. When you get into the bioscience of it, that's where it gets interesting. But I think that's more so a wall that they haven't gotten through yet, as opposed to being like the answer. Like a lot of the answers they're coming through with the bioscience is like, well, it makes no logical sense for anything to go past this point. So this must be what it is. It's like, okay, logical or not, you still need to explore further than that because you may discover something new.
Right. Right.
So that's where they are with that. But there you go. I think it does exist. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I do say free will does exist because, like, for instance, oh God, but even then that goes, because I was gonna say like prime example, you choose whether or not you want to go to work today. You choose or not whether or not you're gonna get up out of bed or you're gonna stay laying there. But at the same time, like the scientists were saying, if you choose not to get up out of bed that day, how are you feeling that day? Like were you having a headache or like a migraine or something, or like is it because maybe you had to get it something fixed in your apartment or something like that, so you decided, okay, I'm gonna skip work today, which is what happened to me today, by the way. And so there are other factors that influence the choices that we make. So but I still do believe that there are certain choices that we make that are of our own ability, but going through the footage that I saw, like the videos and stuff like that from the scientists, now it makes me think more that maybe we don't have as much free will as we think we do. You know what I mean? So it's interesting. Definitely, it's a topic that's still kind of pondering in my mind. But anyway. those are my final thoughts. Better yet, I think the most important thing is as far as this goes with free will. I think information is powerful, and the reason why I say that is because, like for instance, the whole generational trauma being passed from one generation to the next. If you are aware of some of the issues or some of the traumas, then you can consciously make a decision. Okay, well, I'm going to make a decision to counter that, to do something different. I'm going to make a decision to change that, to be different. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think information is powerful. Awareness is powerful, and asking questions is powerful too. It really is. Instead of just going along to get along, going along just because everybody else is doing it. That makes you utilize your free will much less. But if you actually take a second to think and to ponder, now you're exercising free will. So, research information and ask questions. Those are my final thoughts.
I think your ultimate example for me was the sleepwalkers.
Mm-hmm.
If these people are doing these things completely unaware of it, they made these decisions anyway. They made the decision to do that without the use of their prefrontal cortex,
right,
which governs decision making.
Right.
They did it with or without their free will. They still did that.
Right.
They still had a conversation with people.
And like Blackman said, if you, there are situations where your body will take over. If you stay up, you force yourself to stay up, over so many hours, your body's gonna be like, yes, no, I'm in control now. Sleep.
Yeah, because you messing up.
Right.
You messing up, bro.
No,
you're done. Because I've been through that several times. Like your body's like, no, you're done, man.
Right.
No. Oh, I need to. I don't want to sleep. I need to. No. Bye.
No. Right.
Bye.
Right. Right.
Yeah, I've been through that before, man. Look, yeah, that's the ultimate example because that's kind of shows you that your body does do things with or without your consent, with or without your control, like cooking a whole meal or having a conversation.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's like
right. Real quick,
really
before we go, can we play the song? Can we play the song for Lady Navoa?
No, we can't play that song. I'm sorry, Lady Navoa.
Why not? It's for Lady Navoa, man. Come on.
I know.
My name is Rosa. They say I'm supposed to sit in the back, but I'm tired here, so I'm finna sit right closer. Yeah. Come get me up then. It's gonna take about 3, 4, 5 minutes. And I ain't finna repeat myself again. Fight me. Somebody get her. My name is Eve. Yeah. I didn't believe. Yeah. I trusted Satan, ate that apple, he deceived. Yeah. And yeah, I'm naked. I thought I was awakened. I'm the first to do it. Y'all my daughters, we related. Yeah. Trick on Big Harry. Yeah. Don't call me slave hoe. The hell? From the underground railroad, bust down mouth of dope. When I say run, you better go. In the dark, that Glocky glow.
Anyway,
you in her DM, I'm in her mouth, we not the same. Flipping the funk, the heat, the fire, got the flame. Came with the gift, the gab, and blessed with lots of game. Be mad at me, they know I'm not to blame. You in her DM, I'm in her mouth, we not the same.
That one, I just flat out don't like that. That one's not even funny, at all. That's just disgusting.
Well, maybe you like booty, dear.
You fat, bald-headed, no-neck midget. I sentence you to 3,000 lashes for conduct unbecoming a black man.
Why? Because I don't want to watch a man gyrate around like a...
I like booty.
That's good that you like that, producers. But you like booty, that's cool, but I don't need to know that.
I like booty.
Hey, you come here.
Yeah, that's cool. Y'all can like what you like. It ain't for me, though. Just saying. And the crazy part is they gave me so much ammo, I don't need to pause or nothing. Just
you come here.
See, I'm not even the one doing it. Anyway, shout out to Lady Navoa for the $5 cash app. Appreciate it, Lady Navoa. So that's why Lady Navoa gets the song. She put in on this, man.
Thank y'all. Thank you, Lady Noel, for the cash up, and thank you everybody once again for tuning in.
That's what it is, Dr. Nakumbe. Thank you.
That's our show for tonight. Y'all be sure to tune in next week, and peace.
No captivity with Breezy.
Go. Fire by night and a pillar of vapor by day. Walk through the desert, but when you admire the light, see the villains are paper mache. I'm on the way to the promised land, no contraband. I'm an honest man, I'm coming. Y'all met me, I'm set free, playing my part like the Red Sea. Man, I'm from heaven, I'm here with my brother in the volume's 11. Now we're getting rowdy. Swing from the scaffolding.